Viewers, before we dive in, drop a quick comment with your city and the time where you are right now. It's always fun to see where these stories travel while the rest of us lean back and listen. Mike never planned to get tangled in neighborhood drama. He wanted quiet, plain and simple, the kind that makes a man breathe deeper. The first drive up that ridge felt like stepping into an old postcard. A stone house crouched like a lion at rest. Ridgeline woods folding around 42 acres. Not another sound, but the hiss of tires on gravel. His lawyer had laughed when asked for the third time if the place was outside Canyon Hills HOA lines. "You're as free as it gets, Mike. No clipboards, no fines, no lawn police." Historians still argue whether lawyers' laughter is a blessing or a curse. Mike was about to learn the hard way. 2 weeks in, he found the first letter taped to his gate, sugary greetings spiked with demands. Review our community aesthetic guidelines. Ensure visual harmony. The signature Karen Logan president. He scrawled, "Not interested in crimson marker," and sent it back. But like raccoons with garbage, bureaucrats always return. The second letter came certified with charges of inconsistent mailbox design. He laughed so hard, coffee shot from his nose, but he still photocopied everything and mailed a sharp reply complete with zoning statutes. He even added a warning, "Please direct all future nonsense to my lawyer Bob. He's meaner than I am." Karen didn't take kindly to sarcasm. She showed up herself, arms crossed, looking like she'd once filed a complaint about the weather. She declared his fence non-compliant. He pointed out calmly that his land wasn't on her map. "Then it reflects poorly on the spirit of unity," she huffed. He countered, "Good thing I don't live in your utopia." She marched off, posture rigid as rebar, and Mike triple-checked his locks that night. Within days, new notices sprouted like weeds. One jammed under his windshield, bold letters warning of escalating consequences. Another nailed to his oak tree, accusing his roofline of failing to match the community palette. He didn't know what shades that included blood red and sarcasm gray weren't likely. He saved the evidence, even photographed the nails in the bark. Paranoia, maybe. But as scholars say, paranoia is foresight with better filing. Neighbors whispered their warnings. Rick, a Vietnam vet, with hands like knotted rope, told him Karen played the long game. People sold homes just to escape her. Most folded because fighting cost too much. Mike, though, wasn't built for folding. Still, when a dark sedan parked nearby with clipboards and tinted glass, he started filming. When a late-night motion light caught a shadow with something metallic, he added 2 more cameras. The joke of mailbox citations was gone. Something colder was taking shape. The last straw was Karen's return with a binder fat as a phone book. She called it final opportunity for good standing. He called it trespassing. When she claimed his land had been annexed by an expanded map, he nearly laughed again, nearly. But her eyes said she wasn't bluffing anymore. She left in silence, binder clutched like scripture, and Mike sensed the next move wouldn't arrive in an envelope. Saturday evening smelled of charcoal and bourbon, the kind of scent that makes old war stories come easier. Mike had invited a handful of friends, retired Marines, fellow law enforcement buddies, to reclaim a sliver of peace on his back patio. Steaks hissed on the grill, laughter snapped in the air, and for once the only surveillance came from a perimeter drone video someone was showing on a tablet. It felt normal, almost too normal, like the pause before a thunderclap. The doorbell buzzed sharp and insistent. Twice. Then came the pounding knock. Mike glanced at the security feed and froze. Karen on his porch, cream trenchcoat folder in one hand, pistol in the other. Not a bluffing finger gun, either a compact Glock chambered. Historians still argue whether hubris or hardware brings down tyrants faster. Karen seemed determined to test both. Mike didn't panic. He called softly to Foster and Bryce, who slid into flanking positions like shadows. Then he opened the door halfway. Karen's voice was brittle, her gun angled just enough to suggest she thought it made her queen. "We're past letters," she said. "Sign these papers or things get ugly." The folder bulged with pre-filled HOA contracts, fake witnesses, backdated lines. She bragged about county contacts who could erase property rolls, zoning tricks that could bury him for a decade. Mike held her gaze. "That's a very bad idea." She smirked, ready with her monologue about power and special people, when Foster's arm clamped down on her wrist like a vice. The Glock clattered to tile as Bryce ripped the folder away. 2 seconds, no time for a scream. Zip ties clicked, the queen toppled from her throne, and pages of HOA nonsense scattered like oversized confetti. Karen gasped, pale and trembling disbelief painted across her face. "We've got the whole thing on camera," Mike told her quietly. "3 angles, body cams, audio. Save the excuses for the cops." She tried to sputter a defense, but Foster cut her short. Dispatch was called. 1 female detained attempted coercion with a firearm. No injuries. Weapon secured. When the patrol car finally rolled up, lights painting the woods blue and red, Karen sat rigid on the stone bench like a fallen statue. She muttered about being president of the Homeowners Association, about ambush and assault, but the officers weren't buying it. Alvarez, the older cop, reviewed the video. His face didn't flinch. The charges came: crisp assault with a deadly weapon, attempted coercion, trespass. She rose, wobbling, cuffed eyes vacant. The search of her Range Rover turned circus into scandal. Inside an expired permit, more forged contracts, and a file box labeled compliance logs. Dozens of folders, neighbors' names, citations, even letters to employers and schools. One folder was clipped, "Target, do not let escape." Mike's. The quiet hush of shock settled over the driveway. Alvarez bagged the evidence, shook his head. "Looks like coercion with intent to defame. Maybe worse." Karen's eyes met Mike's one last time as the cruiser door closed. Gone was the fire, the haughty smirk. What lingered was the hollow realization that she had brought a pistol to a paperwork fight and lost. Mike stood in the dark, arms folded, knowing this wasn't the end. The gun was just the prologue. The real battle was in those files, a roadmap to rot far bigger than one HOA president's ego. By the time subpoenas landed, Canyon Hills had gone from suburban nuisance to front-page scandal. The DA didn't just nibble at the bait, he swallowed hook and line, pulling in bank records, contracts, and internal board emails. What began as one woman waving a Glock ended as a full-scale fraud investigation. Karen, held without bail, now faced charges stretching from extortion to racketeering. Scholars still argue whether suburbia invents tyrants or simply gives them better stationery. Either way, Karen had run her HOA like a mob, and now she was staring down the statutes written for mobs. Neighbors poured out of the woodwork. 23 in all, each with stories more absurd than the last. One had been threatened with child services because his kid's soccer ball rolled across the sidewalk. Another fined into bankruptcy over lawn ornaments shaped like gnomes. Gnomes, the Switzerland of garden decor. Testimonies stacked into an avalanche. Add in the forensic accounting that traced nearly $500,000 through shell companies like Elite Neighborhood Optimization Group, and suddenly the HOA's beige walls looked more like the set of a crime documentary. The trial cut through excuses like a buzzsaw. Karen's defense argued she was just preserving harmony, but harmony doesn't usually involve Glock 26s and offshore transfers. Witnesses broke down reading her letters. Video of her at Mike's door played on loop, her voice trembling between arrogance and threat. The jury didn't even need a day. Guilty on everything that mattered. 15 years 10 before parole and an order dissolving Canyon Hills HOA. Watching her led away, hollow-eyed Mike realized fear only works until someone refuses to carry it anymore. Civil court followed, quieter, but no less decisive. The payout topped $3 million split among the residents she'd bled dry. Then came the surprise: the county approved Mike's bid to buy 2 abandoned HOA parcels. With a single dollar, he turned ghosts of future community parks into reality. One became the garden of reclamation benches under lantern trees, paths lined with native wildflowers, and a twisted metal sculpture. Bryce welded himself a shattered crown, the fall of HOA kings. The other plot became a solar-powered kiosk humming softly at the cul-de-sac's edge, stocked with homeowner rights. Free legal hotlines and one phrase etched bold across the screen: "Don't sign out of fear." Word spread. A podcast titled The Tyrant of Canyon Hills ran a series. Other towns wrote him saying, "Your fight gave us courage." Mike shrugged it off, but deep down he knew something had shifted. This wasn't just about one rogue HOA president. It was about proving that power only holds when people stay silent. These days he still lives in that stone house. The air tastes cleaner, maybe because fear isn't polluting it anymore. Neighbors wave now, kids laugh near his gate, and sometimes under the lantern trees he sits alone and chuckles. She really thought a gun and a binder could bend him. She really thought fear was stronger than truth. The story eases now, the tempo slowing the way. Twilight softens a restless day. Imagine the ridge at dusk, lantern light touching the benches in the garden of reclamation, leaves swaying gently overhead. The chaos, the subpoenas, the flashing blue lights, all of it drifts into the background, replaced by the hush of cicadas and the rustle of wind through branches. Mike leans back, not as a warrior bracing for another battle, but as a man who finally at last can simply be still. Peace, he has learned, is not about silence. It is about the absence of fear. For so long, fear had seeped into the cracks of his land, delivered through envelopes and whispered threats. Now the only things arriving at his gate are neighbors with kind hellos and children carrying laughter. The old stone house breathes easy again, as if even its walls know the weight has been lifted. Let your own breath match that rhythm. Long, steady, unhurried. Picture the sculpture in the garden crown, twisted and broken, not as a monument to conflict, but as a reminder that even the tallest towers of control can crumble. Nearby, the solar kiosk glows softly, offering knowledge and protection to anyone who needs it, its quiet hum more reassuring than any decree or fine could ever be. And so the story settles like embers in a fire pit. The Marines have gone home, the lawsuits are finished, the sheriff's cruiser long since rolled away. What remains is community calm and the quiet courage of one man who refused to fold. As night spreads across the ridge, lanterns flicker, and the air carries only peace. Close your eyes now. The storm has passed. Sweet dreams.